What's up, reefers? Happy Thursday. So today we've got a very, very special set of announcements, one of which we're going to be talking about my OceanGuard behind me. We got Sever here from Germany, and we're going to be getting Adam. Here we are. We got him right here. Adam in from BRS. So today's fantastic talk, we're going to talk about Interzoo, we're going to talk about the OceanGuard, and we're going to talk about why Adam is here and a little bit more about the OceanGuards at BRS. So without further ado, gentlemen, thank you for taking the time to join us today. Sever, I'm going to start with you. Tell us a little bit, how is Interzoo going?
Yes, hello everybody, and I'm glad to be here. It's late here in Germany. We are in Interzoo with Aquaforest team. We have our beautiful two ocean guards there with amazing corals. I believe that it's the most photographed and video, and the most video we'll see online with our ocean guards, because we have really, really nice corals, and it fits our beautiful tank as well. So it's officially, I think it's the first time that we show to the larger public, to our customer, OceanGuard tanks. Mm-hmm. Everybody's super excited. Everybody saw the quality in their own eyes, because there's always a question. Okay, I saw the brochure, I saw the data, but I would like to touch it. And everybody who was there that I touched it, they really saw the difference. They really saw what it's all about. And we are really, really grateful for these reviews, for this very warm welcome from all these partners that they saw our tanks. So the Interzoo this year was really busy. There's a few brands now from our industry that are missing, but most of the big brands are there, and lot of visitors. And yeah, we had a lot of amazing meetings with friends, with partners, and especially really, I was really, really glad to see this OceanGuards there with all the corals. Probably, Aaron, I have sent you some video, so yeah, maybe you can.
Why don't I queue up one of those videos so you guys can see? So we got a couple videos here. I'm going to start with one, and then we're going to go into another. So here we are. So this is from the Interzoo of the Aquaforest OceanGuard. And so let me play the video. So I'm gonna play one more so we can all enjoy. Well, let me start that one again.
That's somebody catch me cleaning the
I'm gonna start this other one. All
right. So it will be long, but generally it shows a little bit the ambience there, because maybe we didn't saw too much people there, but there were a lot of people making video, making photo, and the tank that was in the beginning, it's full of Elphilia arborescens in many different species, and there are some Catalophilia, like the yellow ones, the yellow with red. The collection of corals are really great. But anyway, and it's of course it's to show the beauty of our OceanGuard tank, and we just show to the people, how solid the cabinet is, how we can manage the colors of the cabinet, and the you know, how plumbing is solid, how the guy the valve gate, which is how very precise, the clarity and the quality of the glass, you know, just all the features, the hinges that are in with, you know, resistant to the rust, to the corrosion, because it's a laboratory grade. So every part that we have in the tank, it's better and just improve it from what we can spot on the market. And so but I can say this thing, but if you don't see it, if you don't touch it, probably it will be not the same story. But of course, you saw it that we gave the power elixir to we just add some power elixir to the tanks, and the corals just really goes open, and you see the response of the corals, and I was even so surprised because the corals are just arrived, you know, just evening before the show. Wow. And we added some those additives. We added some manganium for the gonioporas, and we added the power elixir, and the next morning it was open. Like, wow. So yeah. Anyway, I was quite excited.
It looked fantastic, and you guys could see in the video that there was the natural sunlight peering down in there as well. So that booth placement really helped to illuminate, not just with the Radion G5s on there, but have the sun to be able to dance on the tank as well. Really just made those corals pop, and I think it brings some effervescence, some light into the tanks, which looks really cool.
Yeah, that was a magic moment, because when the sun shine from the top, it was like in a real reef. It's like you see the reflection of the sun. Like, it was really amazing, and people just stopped and just watching, and it was hypnotized by the beauty of this. Really, it's not just. But it was so because there was like, I don't know, like 20 people just standing there and watching and say nothing, just like, wow. Yeah, it really was amazing.
And I know, prior to this video, I posted on my story one of the pictures of the tank with the sun just hitting it, and it really does just bring it to life, because often we're so used to seeing our tanks under the artificial light, or at least a bluer spectrum, that when you see it under the sunlight and you see how the rays just like hit that wave pattern and just dance on the corals, it really is something. So a great space to be able to showcase that, in addition to the tanks there as well.
Yeah, and we used the radions there. We didn't have the generation 6, but we had the 5, the 5th, which is also very good. The best, probably the best lights that we can find in the market now, in my opinion. And they were presenting. They put the fluorescence of corals, and it was also very good.
It really does help us pop. I just want to take a quick second to say thank you to everyone who's joining this stream today. We've got a great turnout, so I'm a little out of arm's reach to respond to everyone at this moment, but just wanted to say hello to everyone and thank you for joining. If you do have questions, definitely pop it in the comments below. I see them, and I'll be able to read and respond to those. So hello to everyone. I just want to take a quick second to say, hi, Adam, for taking the time to join us. I'm sure a lot of you guys know him already from the BRS Facebook group. He's one of the admin on there, and so I'm sure to many of you guys you know him or know of him. So we had the chance to be able to bring him on our stream today to talk a little bit more about the OceanGuards. He's going to be asking me some questions, as well as some of the questions that you guys had asked in the Facebook group, the things that you wanted to know. So Adam, thank you for taking some time out of your busy day to join us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here.
So I know it's getting late for Sever, so at some point he may drop off.
No, but I will just quit now, because I have a flight very early morning. It's very late here, and I'm super tired after all this conversation during the day. And I still feel this excitement inside me, but probably I need to really just sleep after all these few days. So thank you so much for watching, and I thank you, Adam, for joining us. And I just let you in the live. Thank you so much.
All right, Sever, thank you much. Get some sleep, safe travels, and we'll talk to you later.
Thank you so much.
All right, here. So he's going to drop off. All right.
There we go.
There we go. So let me just adjust some lighting on here. Perfect. So I want to cover up a couple housekeeping things before jumping into the tanks. So some of you guys may have heard, some of you may not, but BRS and Aperture are our official distributors in the US of Aquaforest Marine, the saltwater and the lab line, which includes the OceanGuard aquarium. So hot off the press, came out last week to the community. And what that means is that the reefers and retailers will be able to go onto the Aperture BRS portal to be able to buy stuff for their stores, as well as for reefers to be able to start to go on and get the products that they've already been buying, as well as now the full array of products, whether you're a beginner, an intermediate, or an advanced reefer. BRS will now have those products available to you. So I'm super excited about that because, I know in the States, one of the challenges that we've often faced is like, is the product always going to be here? Can my LFS get it in stock? And so we're hoping that this new partnership will allow us to service reefers more who are looking for that consistent availability of products, still at a great price. So just want to be able to mention that for those of you who are in the US. And I know some of you have asked about different products, the Power Elixir being probably the #1 recently. And we weren't able to share this news in the past, but I can share it now. So for those of you looking for products, definitely hit up brs.com or have your LFS reach out to the sales rep at Aperture BRS, and we'll be able to get you taken care of that way. So with that, I'm going to just pass it on over, and we're going to talk a little bit about my tank. So Adam, have you had a chance to even see, I know you guys have one of the OceanGuards there at your office. Have you had a chance to take a peek at it?
Yeah, so I think it's the smallest version
That's right.
offered
Yeah.
is
The
the one that
435.
we were sent. And this was like way back in September when we were kind of starting to kind of reinvestigate the whole Aquaforest line. So yeah, I went through the whole unboxing process, saw it set up. I don't believe it had water in it when I saw it last, but
I'm not sure it has water in it yet, but I know it's gone
yeah.
through some couple different iterations of where it was going to go, how it was going to be used. But I think you could agree that by seeing it, you can see the difference in the OceanGuard versus some of the other tanks on the market. And I think what's important to acknowledge is that, and we've talked about this a couple of weeks ago, that the brand of Aquaforest creates products because of the need as a reefer, right? It's not just about making money, but it's about what does the community need. And Sever's had a tank for many, many years. I've had tanks 25 years. And like, what are we doing that we have pain points? So the OceanGuard is a great example of that, where there was years of pain points in the process of like, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that. And we're going to get into some of those specifics. And so the OceanGuard was 8 years in the making to say, okay, here's all the things that we don't like about what the tanks are in the hobby today. What can be done to make them better? So I'm sure when you saw it, like, you could immediately see some of the things that are different about the OceanGuard than some of the other things on the market.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there were like a dozen of us standing around the tank as it was being unboxed, and we were just kind of, in awe looking at it. Like it was like a weird experience because we were all just standing there looking at it. No one's really saying anything. We were just like jaws to the floor. So yeah, the unboxing experience alone is just incredible because the way that Aquaforest packages these tanks is different than any other tank that I've ever unboxed before. So just from the start, the initial impression of quality is definitely there.
Yeah. And I'll pull up a picture from my phone and show that. So I got my tank on July 22nd. So I've had it almost a year, and I'm now just getting fish in there again. But I'll show you guys just a quick picture. I know there's a glare on it there, but you can see the crate in which it's sent in. So one of the great things about how it's sent is that the cabinet is already pre-built. And part of the reason behind that is because, right, none of us like building flat packs. Let's just put that out there. But more importantly, there's a safety concern about the amount of weight that our tanks, and like, you've got a good sized tank behind you, and anyone who has anything larger than even a 3-foot tank, that's a lot of water volume. And for me, in an earthquake zone or anywhere, like, do you want that flat pack to crumble on you? Probably not. And so that was one of the issues that the team had, like, how can we make a stand better? So it coming already pre-assembled, made out of marine grade yacht plywood. So it's, think 10 or 12 layers that are compressed in and used in yachts. And so that was like one of the things that were taken to be able to ensure that the weight of a tank could be sustained with ease. And so as a result of that, they now come pre-assembled and a B31 certificate, which is in Europe one of the things that says for quality and assurance that it's been tested to be able to withhold that amount of weight. And so right now it's the only tank and only brand in the industry with that certification. So kudos to the team for investing to do that. But I think it solves one of the main problems that you and I have faced in years past with having to figure out how to put a stand together.
Well, and not only the weight the day you set it up, but the weight 5 years from now, because that hopefully our tanks are going to be up that long. And these are in our homes where we have kids running around and family members that bump into the tank or whatnot, and you don't want that 5-year-old tank to start to get wobbly.
Well, yeah, salt is corrosive, and Sever mentioned about the hinges. That was another one of the things that a lot of effort was spent into figuring out what to do about it. Because even in the Aquaforest headquarters, like a lot of the tanks there pre-OceanGuard, had the rusty hinges, but the ones in the lab didn't. And so there was the decision, well, why don't we put these hinges on there that work in our lab that don't have any problems, put them on the OceanGuard. So in fact, that's the only product in the entire build that is not from the European Union. Those come from Japan. But everything else in the tanks are built, manufactured, created, designed in Poland or in the EU, and then assembled in Poland. So pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it's probably one of the only brands that I can think of off the top of my head that is building tanks out of Europe.
Yeah, it definitely, and we've had some people ask about that recently. Where are they made? And we've shared some pictures of the factory that they're made. And in fact, Aquaforest is making a brand new facility that will be solely dedicated to the production of the OceanGuard aquariums. And this thing is massive. It is like football field size kind of facility, because glass is big, and to be able to pre-build these cabinets, you need a lot of space to be able to put them together and then create it and everything. So there's definitely a lot that goes into it. And as a reefer, I can definitely appreciate that they've taken the time to think about that.
Yeah, that's impressive.
And about impressive, one of the things that I like is actually like looking at the glass. So a lot of folks in the US, will know of Starfire glass and say, how high quality that is, and it is. But one of the things that in Europe that they have access to is a company called Pilkington, and they do large scale production for like skyscrapers and LEED certified buildings. And they have a glass that's ultra low iron called Opti White. And it is even clearer than the Starfire glass. And I've posted on my Instagram page just the side profile and a few others. I can literally see across 6 foot of water down the seam right outside. And it's pretty amazing. And I know it's kind of hard to see through into the tank at the moment, but it's super, super clear. And it's also a little bit more scratch resistant because it's harder than just a regular glass or a Starfire glass.
Okay, well, yeah, that was going to be one of my questions later on, was the scratch resistance, because that's not something that you see a whole lot of companies talking about. But yeah, I guess it's just the glass that you start with is kind of the magic.
Yeah, the whole process, and I'd imagined, and I'm not going to speak for Pilkington, but that they've seen this before on a commercial scale, like building skyscrapers, so how to keep stuff a little bit more scratch resistant in a commercial setting, and they probably applied that same logic into other applications. So I'm glad as a reefer that they've done that, and that this was the glass that was chosen to do so. So all 4 panes of glass, including so the front and back are this higher grade. I don't know about the bottom specifically, so you can't hold me to that. But it's super clear when I lifted it up, or me and like 8 other people had to lift it up. So I should probably point out a few things there. So they're heavy. They are heavy. So they're not Euro braced. They are rimless. So as a result of that, you're having to deal with the thicker glass to accommodate the weight. So my tank, is 6 foot, so it's 71 inches by 27 wide by 24 high. And so that's the total volume is 260 gallons. Tank volume is right around, I think it's like 200 gallons. So just as quick math there. But it's 19 mil glass. And so it's 3/4 inch glass, and it is a thing to reckon. Like, so we tried it, moving it 2 times. And the first time we had 6 people, didn't work. We couldn't move the tank. So we ended up having to get 8 people, and I built a ramp to go from my garage. And it was literally only moving. So there's my garage door right there. It was moving 15 feet from the garage to where it is behind me. And I used actually the top of the crate, and I put some wheels on there from Lowe's, and we wedged it on there, lifted it up over the step, and then put it into place, and then deadlifted it straight up and over. And it was a mission. Like, I've got some pictures and video that I can share later on that, but I'm so grateful to good friends in the hobby to have come over to help me with that. So you know who you are. I appreciate you. Thank you very much for helping that, because it's heavy. So I would say anything bigger than the 3 foot, you definitely need a small army of people to help you move it in.
Some heavy duty suction cups definitely help too.
Definitely, yeah. And we had those on hand. We had 4 of them. So thank you, Will, for providing those.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was something to have to deal with. But it's something like, when you think about moving a tank, like I had an old 4-footer, and it took 2 of us to move it. It was nothing, So in my mind, I'm like, oh, from a 4 foot to 6 foot, 2 more people, that should be fine. If they're bodybuilder type people, yeah, sure. But it's one of the things for me why it took so long to get my tank in place, because I needed to amass an army of people to get it in. And I was at the point where I'm going to hire movers. Again, it's the short distance. I'm not going anywhere to move the tank, because I wanted it in. I needed it in, because just having the empty wall there with no tank, and my holding tanks with the stuff, it was just killing me.
Yeah, the tanks behind us kind of look similar in size on the video, but yeah, this one behind me is only 76 gallons, so it's nowhere near a 200-gallon beast.
Yeah, it's a beast of a tank, but I love it. It's a beautiful upgrade from the 4 foot that I had before, and it gives me a lot more things to play with. And so I'll get out of frame a little bit, and I'll talk about some of the things that I did with the tank. So I use the Aquaforest rock in here. So there's just about 3 boxes of rock that I use to create that scape, and the Aquaforest sand. But it's a little bit hard to tell here, but I created the tank to be movable, so, or the rock to be movable. And so when I first created the rock assembly, it looked awesome. I was super happy with it. I was like, this is like 200 pounds of rock here. How am I going to lift it up over the glass and into the tank? And it dawned on me, like, that ain't gonna work. I need to find a more modular approach to it. So I started to make the new construction into pieces. So the big arch that you see here is all glued together, and you can kind of see there's a flat horizon, like right about where my finger is there. So this piece below is kind of a wedge that kind of like a crescent moon that goes to the back. And so that's on this side, and then on this side over here, I created another ledge. And so once I put those in, and those were very light to put in, then I was able to put this other piece on top of it, and it kind of looks like an organic arch. And on this side here, I was able to create this whole structure out of like about a dozen rocks, and it's freestanding and maybe weighs 35 pounds. So I'm able to get it out. And then lastly, there's a piece that's right over here creating this other arch. So that's made out of 4 pieces that were glued together out of the AF cement, the stone fix, and then I put some of the sand on it as well. So I was able to clean up some of the joints there. But when you look at it, you can't really tell that it's made out of several different pieces. And as corals get on it, it's going to completely fill in. And you won't even notice that, it's freestanding in some of the pieces. But if I ever need to move it or get into it, I can easily pick this stuff up and get it in and out.
Yeah, and in such a big tank, that's crucial. If you need to, catch a fish out of there, it's so much easier when you have just a couple of pieces of rock versus one huge rock structure.
Yeah, and I played around with the rock aquascaping for maybe 6 weeks, maybe even a little longer, because I didn't have the tank in yet. So I know I had the ability to figure out how to make it work. And if you look at it from the side profile, like there's a slope to it, so and ledges that allow me to be able to put stuff in either to grow out or to grow up. That give me a depth of field. So there was something that I kind of wanted a diverse perspective. If I was to look down on the tank, what it would look like, what is that perspective versus and what if I look at it face value? How do I see the tank differently? So it gave me a lot to think about to be able to maximize how I put the corals in there.
Yeah, and it's funny because when you talk to somebody that's not in the hobby and you're talking about stacking rocks and gluing
Yeah.
rocks together, they're like, that's a little strange that you're this into that and you spent 6 weeks on that. But
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
for us, this is like the foundation of this piece of living art that we're creating. And like the tank itself obviously is a big part of that, but then
Yeah.
like the aquascape is a huge part of that too. And once you really start to think about it, it really does make sense that we're spending 2, 3, 4, 6 weeks on building it.
Absolutely. And we all go into this with what is our ideal state when the tank looks like full. I don't know if we often think about it from the beginning. How do we create for that future state and then work backwards on that? And so it's not my first rodeo in a tank,
Yeah.
obviously. So I really just I knew that I wanted a lot of both negative space, which you can see through all the different rocks in here. I wanted a lot of cave and caverns for fish to be able to just chill out and have that sense of safety. Whether they be the Antheus or some of the angels that I'm getting for it. I knew it was important for their own well-being to have those lower flow spaces that they weren't getting blasted with the light, which we'll talk about in a minute, as well as all the water flow that I have in there. Because at the moment I have the two return lines. I have two of the Neptune waves, and you can't even see them, but they're kind of right there and right there, just pushing water forward. And then on the end there and over here, I have the Pentair 42 Pros. So I've got a lot of water moving in the tank. And so it was important for me to create zones that were a little less turbulent, right? So that the fish can take a breath and catch their water breath, if you will, when they need it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, all those two pump brands that you mentioned push a ton of water. So definitely need some lower flow areas.
Yeah, and for me, I wanted to create structure, a flow that was top, middle, bottom, but also from front to back, close, middle, and then at the glass. So I really thought about that. So when I put the corals in there, that I'm able to put them in the appropriate places.
Absolutely.
So I'm still working on the lighting for it at the moment, but I want to touch on that for a quick second. So my old lights were fantastic. I really did enjoy having the Ilumagic Blaze on there, but I wanted to be able to have something that would give me a little bit more punch, and then be able to take photographs a little bit easier with my smartphone. So I went back to old school and actually went with a hybrid. So I have the Giesmann Spectra metal halide. So you can they're off right now, but you can kind of see the ports for that. And I have 250 watt 14.5 bulbs in there. I have 4 T5s, and those are a 70-30 split between 21K and 6.5. So it gives a pretty white light. Again, they're off at the moment. And then I have 2 of the Giesmann Pulsar, the new G3s on there. And one is on, the front one is on at the moment. The back one is off, or it would be blinding the screen. But I actually want to do a couple other things to it to give me some more supplemental light to fill in when the halides are not on, because my plan is to only keep them on for 3 to 5 hours a day max. And so when they're not on, I want to be able to still get good coloration and good pop. So I got a couple things in the queue for that, which I'll be talking about soon enough.
Awesome. And maybe I'm jumping ahead here, but what's your goal for the corals in the tank? Are we going full blown SPS or?
Pretty much.
Okay, I kind of gathered by the lighting, but
Yes. So for those of you who haven't had a metal halide before, they're like old school, on off only, high heat, high output, usually a chiller required kind of thing. Great for SPS. And so, yeah, the bulk of what I want to put in here is SPS. I do have a couple of, well, about a handful of torches that I'm going to be putting in a Gargonia that was my dad's in his tank for 20 years or so. So I've got some legacy pieces going into it, but it'll be a lot of movement from furry sticks.
that's awesome. Yeah, it's nice to see some of the, if you want to call it old school technology, being used even still with the age of LEDs. My last tank was a T5 only
Yep.
tank, and LEDs are great, but some of the old school technology like halides and T5s, just there's something about them that's just a huge advantage to growth and coloration.
And honestly, I think that the hybrid is where I believe it's the way that I want to illuminate the tank, where having the halides in there, having the T5s, having LEDs, and even different brands of LEDs to fully augment the different spectrums in there, and to get that almost sun-like opportunity. Is something I've really strived to, and you can't see from the top, but I really wanted something that was super clean and streamlined. So I had it's a 45-45 extruded aluminum frame made that I have bolted into the back of the stand. So all you really see are these two little joints hanging out, kind of cantilevering over here and right there, and the wires hanging down. And so my plan is to keep everything as neatly contained in there as possible, in spite having a full swath of brands of lights in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like a broken record saying this because I say it all the time on the Facebook group, but it's all about finding the right tool for the right job.
Yeah.
And if your goal is to keep some softies, then obviously that's what you have is way overkill. But obviously you've identified what your goals are, and that's the tool for that job.
Yeah, and staghorns are one of the corals that I really want to keep in the tank, and I know just how much they thrive under a halide, and so that was an important opportunity for me, is to be able to get that light. And I had the light manufactured for me in Germany and sent over, and so again, it's hard to see, but it's a white fixture. The cabinetry, going back to the OceanGuard, so they have the option of coming with 5 different color interchangeable cabinets, and so I went with one of the gray. And actually, I'll bring it up so you guys can see in here. All right, so here you go. You can see all the different colors that are available, and I went with kind of this middle gray over here, this rhino gray, and it's something that I think is a quite nice color. But we've learned today that the tanks are part of our living environment, and gone are the days when it was in your basement, man cave, and only you saw it. And so that was one of the other things that went into making of the tank, is how do you make it interchangeable so that all of the different cabinetry, the external pieces, can be just taken out without having to drain it. You just pop it in, take off the screws and the nuts, and just interchange, easy as. And so it's definitely something, if I wanted to change to have it match the different living environment, I can do super easily. So, and for me, I wanted something that just wasn't the typical black or the white. I went with a gray because it's kind of different. And Sever, one of his favorite colors was the sand color, that warm sand on the right there, and it's unique. It's the only one on the market that's offering this type of color. So definitely a lot of thought was put into it, and I know that BRS will be offering a variety of these different colors as well.
Yeah, and like you said, it's furniture at this point.
Yeah.
If it's in your living room, you have to get approval from your spouse and the
Yep.
rest of the family that's going to have to look at it every day. So it makes sense that it matches the decor in your room.
Yeah, absolutely. So in case it wasn't clear, those of you who may have joined, BRS is now going to be carrying the tanks very, very soon. That they will be arriving to BRS facility in the coming days, weeks. So they'll be available on brs.com very soon, as well as picking out your cabinetry colors, and the retailers will be able to get that as well. So definitely go on there pretty soon. Check it out. For those of you who are interested, definitely check out the aquaforest.eu, and you can check out the catalog as well and see more about the tanks from the homepage. But excited to be able to have BRS be able to sell them very, very soon.
Yeah, I'll for sure update our Facebook page once they're available too. We had some holdups in shipping, but it sounds like they might be here as soon as tomorrow. So they likely won't be on the website tomorrow, but we'll get them into inventory and get all that prepared. So it's very soon.
Yeah, so very soon for those of you guys who've been itching to get one of the OceanGuards, or have messaged me about it. When are they here? Where can I get it? Now you know. One of the things I want to talk about quickly, and I know we're a little bit over our normal 30 minutes. So Adam, if you need to run as well, let me know. All right, we'll keep going for a little bit longer. We've kind of talked about this thing as a snail crusher in the past, but you see that precise gauge valve there. This thing, and for my 980, is like the size of my fist. It's massive, but what it allows is for super precise water flow to make it near silent. Like honestly, you can't even hear my tank behind me right now. And so that's achieved through two reasons. How you see on the right there's that kind of that baffleding. And so there's a cover that goes over, you can see in the top of the picture, and it helps to muffle the sound as it goes through that. So for the first, then it floats. So as the water level goes up and down, it equally moves up and down to keep it quiet. But the second is that with that gate valve there, super, super precise, you're able to dial it in to get almost no gurgling, no bubbles, super silent flow of the aquarium. And I think it's one of the biggest in the industry right now to be able to offer such an advantage. But on top of that, and you can't see in this picture, but you know, when we've set up tanks, you know, the hole between the glass and the piping is usually a little bit smaller than the pipe itself. Well, that was another one of the pain points that the team had to deal with in years past. So this particular set of plumbing is larger than others on the market. So you get more volume of water going from your sump than from the tank into the sump cycling. So you get better turnover, and it's quieter. But the reason why a lot of brands don't do that is because it costs more for bigger piping, right? So to be able to have, you know, this diameter of piping and all the unions is expensive. And you can see in the picture, like there's a lot of non-returns there. So if the power goes out, each one of the pipes have one, plus the diameter of the hole is bigger to allow the water to flow through a lot easier. So a lot of thought was put into the plumbing there to keep it super silent.
Yeah, and I mean, like we were talking about before, being in our living space, like I don't want to hear the gushing of water into my sump.
Right.
I want to, you know, if I'm watching a movie or doing something around the house, I don't want to have to hear the tank.
Yeah, because it's in our living space, and the quieter it is, you know, the more that we're going to be able to enjoy it, and the more when people come over and see it, they're going to be like, man, that's nice. Not, oh man, what's all that noise? So
Yeah.
I'll flip through a couple of these pictures so you guys can see some of the different sizes. So here's the smaller 275. So this is 73 gallons, and then you can kind of see that they go up from there. So and this is the one that I have. So you can see into the sump construction. So there's two pieces. There's the dry side, you know, whether you put a chiller or equipment in there, and then there's the wet side for the sump itself. Super versatile. And one of the things that the team also had as a pain point was the amount of evaporation and how to integrate the ATO into the sump in a pretty effective way for the size of the tank. So you can see in here on the bottom right that ATO is massive. It's literally 15 plus gallons of water that you can have in there. And I'm in LA, and I evaporate roughly 1.5 gallons a day of water. So, you know, that's a good amount, a couple of weeks worth of water to have in there. Which keeps it super simple and easy for me. So while it does take a lot of space, I appreciate that it's built into the system, and it's pretty easy for me just to connect up my ATO pump and just feed it right back into the sump.
Well, and ultimately, it's something that a reefer that's going with this, you know, nice of a system is going to have an ATO
Yeah.
system I would say 99% of the time. You're going to have it. You don't have to buy a reservoir this way. That's usually $100 to $200.
Yep.
Honestly, having it built in does save space, probably by a couple of inches.
Hmm.
So I don't see any negative with this situation. I, with my last tank, had to decide with, am I going to have my ATO under the tank,
Yeah.
or is my equipment going to be under the tank? And with kids around, having your equipment mounted to the wall with all these like plugs coming out of it doesn't make any sense.
Oh yeah.
But also having this ATO sitting on the ground where they can get into doesn't make any sense either. So you kind of have the best of both worlds with the dry side and the ATO.
Yeah, and so there's some, this is a hobby of iterations, and so the current sump that I have, has a good size opening on it, but the new versions of the sump have an even larger opening on that. So if you want to use it instead of as an ATO, but you want to use it for a frag tank, there's a way that you can interchange the pieces and put your light on there and hang it on and use it as a frag tank as well. So it's great to see some of the adaptations happening, even once the tank has gone to market, that we're continuing to come up with new ways to even make it even better.
Yeah, that's awesome because, if you're one of the few reefers that plumb your RO system directly to the sump, then obviously you don't need that ATO,
Sure.
but you can utilize it for your frag tank, which is awesome.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, Greg Carroll? Thank you for joining. So, one of the things that that I did in my tank, and I'll exit out of this so you guys can see a little bit. So, right now I have my doors off, and I'll actually just take off the pane 1 second. So I'm still working on a lot of the equipment side of things, but I've got obviously the ATO going. I've got my skimmer here, so I have the Great White by DeLua skimmer going, and it fits perfect in here. I have two of the media reactors, the AF 110s, and so right now I have the life source in one and the life biofill in the other, and so that they're interconnected there. And I have it going through the manifold that has an option to put on another valve. So it allows me to come through, feed the system without needing an extra pump in there. So this is what I've got down in here. It's kind of hard to see, but I'm using the KH Lab by Pacific Sun to help to track my alkalinity. And that unit is actually on the other side. It's kind of out of the frame over here. But I'm going to have that connected with my calcium reactor down over here. I have the Pax Bellum over here. And then I have my algae scrubber my air scrubber over here. And then my bottles of component 123 Pro. So that's so far how I've got everything planned. I'm probably going to change some stuff up on it a little bit later, but I have more equipment to still get in there.
Yeah, and it's a hobby, so you're constantly tweaking.
Oh yeah, exactly. So, but I've spent a lot of time thinking, like as you said with kids, how can I keep all the chemical side of stuff contained, into one side that I can keep locked or childproofed, so that my daughter can't get into it, because she's fascinated with the sump. She'll throw her toys in there all the time.
Yeah.
And so, I have covers on it usually, so she doesn't get in there and play with it. But once I put the doors on, it'll be a lot easier. But for me, as I mentioned earlier, I'm at my dining room table, and the tank is an arm's length away, so it was easier for me to keep the door off for right now while I'm playing with and building stuff out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a little jealous because I wish that we would have had this Aquaforest BRS arrangement before I set this tank up. I ended up drilling through the wall because I didn't want anything under the tank, so I've kind of got a small fish room behind. But it would have been a lot easier just going with the OceanGuard.
I'll be honest, I have the garage right behind me. I wish I still could have did the same thing. And so like behind the tank, you kind of can't see, but I've got these pillars over here that are kind of like right next to where the tank is. So it's inside of that groove. Behind the tank, I have an 80-watt Pentair back there as well. And so empty, that thing is probably 30 pounds. Full, that's probably the 60. So the once a year when I've got to get back there and change out the bulb, I will literally have to disconnect the unions, put a pump through it to flush out all the water, take off everything. Right, it feeds into my chiller, pull that out, and then lift it up over the tank, probably take off the lights to get it out. But I didn't want to put it next to the tank or anywhere else because, the thing's, 5 feet long.
Yeah, they're huge.
They're huge, right? And so I was like, where's the best place to put it? So I stuck it behind the tank. Once a year I can deal with.
Yeah, sometimes function over form is just a necessity.
Yeah, and I'm blocking right now, so I will switch over here. So on the side of the tank, I have a IKEA special over here with the controller board. So right now I've got everything that I'm working on putting into it. So in another video, I'll do an update about all the different goodies that I've got in there. But it's coming along, and so from walking into our dining room, it looks nice. And so I just got a couple of fish starting to get back in there again. Many of you who have been part of my story and journey for a while have known I had uronema. And so that's why, I'm almost a year later and getting the tank finally rebooted. So I had some chromis in there. They got uronema. And I went through a whole slew of things to reboot the tank, all the way from adding hydrogen peroxide, 34% ozone to it. Obviously, the UV, the temperature spike. I thought I had it. I sent out some water for testing, came back negative. I was so happy. I was like, you know what? I'm going to be sure. And I sent out again. It came back positive. So I was like, all right, at this point, there's still no fish in there. Nothing had changed, but a different strain of uronema came back. Go figure. So I was like, screw it. And I medicated the tank. And so I spent a couple weeks medicating it, and then went through another process. And I decided not to send another sample. I was like, you know what? If I've got it, I've got it. If I don't, thank goodness. Because it's frustrating. I replaced out all the sand that's in there, and a lot of the rock, it sat in hydrogen peroxide, and then I bleached it and everything, and then put it back in. And so I started the cycling process again. So I'm finally at the point where I have 2 clownfish in there, 2 black storm clowns from my buddy Bryce, who moved out of state. So I'm babysitting them for him. And I have a mystery wrasse in there at the moment. So I was hoping to catch out some from my other holding tanks for this video. I didn't get there. So we're getting there. And so, the next part will be is to get all the parameters dialed in. And then I'll be adding some more fish that I currently have in the holding tanks, as well as some of the things on my dream fish list. And then we'll be getting corals in over the coming days and weeks as well.
Yeah, and I'm kind of in a similar timeline as you. I didn't have to go through the uronema and all that, thankfully. But my tank, as you can see behind me, is also pretty bare.
I think anyone who's been in the hobby long enough, they think to themselves, we don't care for a reef tank. We maintain water, right?
Yeah.
And I think actually, Greg, you may have mentioned that on another stream long ago. It's so true. And this has taught me patience beyond what you could imagine, right? Just to be able to maintain water, because some of this original water has been in here for months, right? And I've got to really just enjoy it without any corals or anything in it. But I'm super excited to now get to the point that I can actually keep a thriving reef in here.
Yeah, and honestly, curating the livestock is half of the fun.
Yeah. Greg, you made the comment in here about adding bleach, and so I actually went out and bought, I think it was like 23 gallons of bleach.
Oh, wow.
And that was the plan, was I'm gonna bleach it, but I decided against it because the Aquaforest rock is so porous that it's basically like a substrate, that I didn't want the bleach to leach into it and to have to sit for so long to pull it out, or to have to use so many dechlorinators to get it out, which is why I went with the hydrogen peroxide, that 34%, because it just creates water as the byproduct, and the tank looked like a jacuzzi. And, I read a lot of the Humble Fish stuff, and, saw the success. And I thought I had success with it too, until the second test came back. But bleach could have been an option. I just didn't think that it would be viable with the rock. So a lot of options up there for people who get uronema. I don't wish that on anyone.
No,
not anyone. Like, as I mentioned earlier, I've been in this for 25 years as a reefer. I've never dealt with it until now, and I hope I never have to deal with it again. I will always have quarantine up and going and get quarantine fish, and maybe not even chromis, except for the one that I have from my old tank, and just accept that that's one fish that's no longer part of my my ecology.
Yeah, and so many beginners, experience having chromis because they're pretty inexpensive and
Yeah,
easily accessible, and it's just one of those easy things to fall into if you're not careful.
they're the number one collected and sold fish in the hobby, and so I started with 12 of them. And I love the look of chromis, particularly with acros. They're just great, and so that was always the plan. But after dealing with this, I'm like, I'm not so sure that's the way I'll go. If there are any captive bred ones out there, if anyone who knows of anyone who's doing that, let me know. I'd prefer to buy them captive bred and know that they're safe than some of the potential risky wild ones. So, but yeah, I'm excited to be able to start adding fish to it. The tangs are going to go in next. So I have a purple tang, my old powder blue, a whitetail bristletooth, and a keyhole tank. So those are going to be the first to go into it, and those will begin to start to grazing. The tank, the lights are on usually for a couple hours a day. I don't usually keep the halides on, but normally the LEDs and the T5s for about between 3 and 5 hours a day. So, and I hadn't got any of the uglies, so, but I'm assuming that'll happen as I ramp up the light schedule. Those of you who are curious, between just the T5s and the LEDs, the power levels at the sand bed is roughly 260. At the top of the rock over there is about 380. So that's just with T5s and LEDs. So once you kick the halides on, that rock point there is right around 900. So
Wow.
it's right underneath that halide. So it definitely kicks into full effect.
Yeah, that's a lot of par.
Yeah, and so one of the things that you talk about with PAR and nutrients, we all strive for low nutrient systems, but with higher PAR, you need to balance out that nutrient level. So I plan to anticipate regularly having to keep my nitrates at 20 plus, and not that it will create a lot of algae, but I think that will be a target level that I'll need just to keep the corals happy because of their own absorption there. So I will have to retrain myself of what the status and quota is for my tank. That a 5 to 10 that I had before under LEDs may not be enough nutrition for the tank under halide. So I'm excited to have to go through that process of relearning what does the nutrient balance or imbalance look like on this type of tank.
Yeah, and you said it. It's all about nutrition. We talk about nutrients, but that's not really kind of the whole story.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that go into keeping healthy corals and healthy fish. It's not just about nitrates and phosphates.
Exactly. So my plan is to add a bunch of Anthias to the tank as well, with an auto feeder on it. So they're going to be eating 5 times a day. So that'll be one of the things that I can do to help to maintain those nutrient amounts and to keep them well fed as well. So I'm hoping that will help to feed the fish and to feed the corals at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. And feeding the fish, in a roundabout way, does feed the corals, and it's
Yeah.
fish waste is the best coral food.
Yeah, and I've talked about this. We had a fish breeder in Poland, Błażek, joined before, and he talked about fish nutrition, and he was sharing how fish digestive systems are pretty poor at pulling out nutrients. So if you're feeding them a high quality food, and like right now I'm actually feeding the Anthias food and this is a marine M mix for clowns, and so they're a high protein based food. There's going to be a lot of nutrients in there and vitamins that are just going to pass through their system. And so I anticipate being able to the corals to absorb some of those things, and the sinking granules, I actually just feed the corals as well. So whether it's spot feed them, I'll just take a pinch, go down in there and drop it into their mouths, and they're just as happy with that as well.
Yeah, and obviously, I gravitate towards using things that Bulk Reef Supply carries, and I'm excited that we're going to have a lot more purple on the shelves because I'm going to have easier access to a lot of those different foods to try out. So as I kind of curate my fish selection, I'm going to be able to to really focus on providing the best nutrition for them.
Yeah, I think there's going to be, and don't quote me on the number, but I think 116 SKUs of Aquaforest stuff available on BRS, as well as the freshwater line, which we're going to be talking more about. So what you see is purple up above. We're going to switch it to the green when we talk about the freshwater line and stuff. So, but some exciting times ahead. And I'm curious to hear, what are some of your thoughts about some of the products that you're trying for the first time? And, in obviously the BRS community on Facebook, and hearing what they think. And, I'll be active on that, listening and fielding questions on that too. So it's great to see that the more is available, and hopefully that, reefers will start to try this stuff. It's been in the US for 8 years, but I think now is coming to a point where the availability hopefully will start to grow, and accessibility will be there.
Yeah, that's the big thing. I was looking at some of the YouTube comments on Thomas's recent kind of Aquaforest announcement video, and there were a couple people on there that have been trying to, get the Aquaforest rock for a while now, and now they're finally able to, because they weren't able to find it before. So just availability is really everything.
Yeah, and one of the things, as being at the manufacturer of the products, everything is manufactured at the headquarters in Poland. So as soon as an order is placed, by BRS, it's literally like for the salt, within a week, that salt is being manufactured and being packaged and then sent out. So, in terms of people asking about expiration dates, like that type of stuff is like the moment that order is placed, it's being fulfilled and being sent out. And some of the other products, I anticipate stuff's going to be bought through on a regular basis now. And so, having stuff sit on shelves for a long period of time isn't going to be the norm going forward, as it was in times past. So some of those things are evolving. And I mentioned this in one of those posts as well, is that, the Aquaforest and the EU has changed some of the regulations on expiration dates. It used to be 2 years, now it's 3 years. So a lot of the stuff that's coming into the US now is all going to be 3 years of expiration. And you'll have a good solid, call it 2.5 years shelf life to use these products. And for most of us, we're going to use it up long before that. So I know those were some of the questions, so I wanted to bring that up and address it as well with the group.
Yeah, and the Aquaforest salt is something that I've used in the past, the reef salt, and I've always had good results with it. When BRS stopped carrying a lot of the Aquaforest products, that's kind of when I fell off of it, and I had to switch. But I'm so excited for the, like I said before, the purple to be back on the shelves, because there are so many kind of niche products that Aquaforest produces that there's not a lot of other brands that have a specific product for a specific problem that I'm looking for.
Right.
And going back to the nutrition thing, like a lot of it is nutrition based, whether it's I think it was the Rico food that I was using at the time, or the fish foods that you just kind of showcased there. There's just a ton of options that Aquaforest has that a lot of the other brands don't.
And one of the things that we talked about this at the very beginning is, as a product line, looking at stuff that's for beginners, the intermediate, and the advanced reefer. So, a lot of folks would say, "Oh, it's like it's so many products. How do I know what to pick?" And there is a guide that is available that it'll be on BRS's website under the Aquaforest product page, also on the Aquaforest .eu page as well under guides, that will help you to navigate based on what your goal is. Like if your goal is growth, here are the set of products. If your goal is color, here are the products. And so, and against beginner, intermediate, and advanced with the lab line, it'll really help make it super easy for reefers to start to see, what products that are right for them based on what their goal is. So once you can identify that as a reefer, then it'll be much easier to begin to select the products that you need.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks like my camera's frozen. Love the technical difficulties of doing this live, but hopefully you can still hear me.
We can still hear you.
Perfect. But yeah, absolutely. It's all about finding what you need to achieve that goal.
Exactly. So, we're definitely doing the best, and, open to feedback. Like one of the things that had come up recently is looking for bigger size containers for some of the components strong. So this is the dry stuff that you mix together. to be able to create the component 1, 2, 3 plus. And so I know we talked about this, I think last week or the week before, and Philip, we talked about it, about being able to have some of these larger sizes, and it'll make it much easier for people who that's what their preference is, to be able to do that. So if people have issues and need stuff in the market, the more they share it, the more we can make some of these changes as the brand to evolve the products to go forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I love to see it. This hobby never sits still, and it's awesome to see Aquaforest kind of pushing forward with that.
Exactly. And so I know we're right about at the hour mark. We're usually 30 minutes, and we keep these short and sweet. But I just want to again thank everyone who's taken the time to watch this video. Adam, thank you for taking your time today to be here. I know I went through a little bit of a spotlight about my OceanGuard. I'm probably going to do another one as I get more fish in there and some of the corals. And I'll talk about some of the way that I set up the system as an ecology from the lighting that, again, is still a work in progress at the moment, as well as some of the equipment that I'm using in the tank and why I'm making some of these decisions. But we showcased the Sever's tank a couple weeks ago, and there was a lot of interest for people to show my OceanGuard. So again, as one of the first OceanGuards in the US, I thought it would be a good idea to jump on here and to show a little bit of my tank while the team in Poland is at Interzoo.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. I love kind of talking about the hobby and seeing what other reefers are doing. And then going back to the OceanGuard tanks, definitely check out the Bulk Reef Supply Facebook page and Instagram, because we'll post more information when they're available, but it should be very, very soon.
Yeah, so very soon, guys. So again, thank you for taking the time to join. If you like this video, smash that thumbs up, like button. You got comments, questions, leave down below, and we'll be sure to answer them. If you want to be a guest on a future Tank Talk, hint, hint, Greg, if you'd like to join, I'd love to have you guys on and to share your experiences with us. And definitely check out brs.com. Coming soon are going to be the OceanGuard Aquarium. So until then, happy reefing, everyone.